Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Brad Martineau, if we have not met. And in this video, I'm going to share with you a part of a presentation that I gave recently. The presentation was called How to Be a Confident Leader Who People Want to Follow. And the subtitle was Without the Fear, the Doubt, the Second Guessing, or the Manipulation Tactics That You Hate That Other People Use on You. And when I gave the presentation at this conference, I made the cardinal sin as a presenter that I didn't manage the time very well, and I basically ran out of time to share the last bullet point. So I promised everybody in the room that I would record it and send it to them. So if you were there, here you go. And if by chance you weren't there, well, here you go. Anyway, there are other pieces that we talked about that I'm not going to cover in this video, but they'll most likely make it onto the channel at some point. So subscribe and do the things that you do so you can get access to that. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about. Again, the overall topic is how to be a confident leader who people want to follow. And so the first couple of bullet points, we're talking about what you want to have them follow, how you get them to be on board with what you're trying to do. This one has more to do with the confident part, how to stay confident as you lead, and the personal development side that is a part of being a confident leader. So we're going to flip over here. We'll turn the screen on. The title of this part of the presentation is How to Unlock the Shackles of Your Childhood so that you can unlock your inner leader. So we have things that hold us back from being a powerful leader. And in a couple of the other bullet points, we talk about some mechanics of how to do that. But in this one, I want to talk about, I like to call it the sidebar, right? So we all go through life and we experience it. And other people can kind of see what we're doing. But what they don't see is a little sidebar of all the thoughts that are going on inside of our head as we navigate through the challenges of life and through the challenges of business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So what I want to talk about here are a couple of different things that I've learned having gone on this roller coaster ride of personal development, being an entrepreneur, leading people, wondering if I was good enough, feeling really, really confident, then not feeling confident. So we're going to go, there's basically three different pieces. The first one, the first part we're going to talk about in here are some mental muscles or mindset muscles that I find very valuable to proactively work to develop. The second thing I want to talk about are the phases of progress. So as we go on this journey, it's extremely valuable to be aware of what progress actually looks like. So what are the phases we're going to go through so that we don't end up quitting inadvertently too early. And then the last part of the presentation, I'll talk about the process of progress. I've got a little more details. There's actually another video on my channel where I introduce and talk about the process of progress, but this one I've got some other pieces I want to share as well. So that's what we're going to go through really quickly here. All right, so how to unlock the shackles of your childhood so you can unlock your inner leader. We have one of our core values here, and one of the mantras that we like to talk about internally is this concept of being a force of nature. And I love the idea of, I just love the idea of being a force of nature, that when I wake up and I move through the world with intent, and I move through the world to create and to influence for good. Now, obviously a force of nature can be very destructive. That is not what we're talking about here, but I love it. So this kind of captures, this quote, this idea captures the essence of this entire thing around how to unlock the shackles of your inner childhood or your childhood so that we can become this leader, be a force of nature, right? So the first thing I want to talk about are these three mental muscles that I found are really, really valuable to just install at the very base of like how we look at the world, always remembering that these three things are fundamentally true, I believe. And what I found is these are just true. So I'm going to go through these. I kind of made them into an acronym, ARC. We'll call it that it's the arc of getting to leadership. I don't really have a good reason why ARC is the acronym, but I wanted to make it something that you could remember. So maybe my awkward acronym here makes it enough that you can remember ARC. So there are three different, think of these as mindset muscles that you install, literally install like at the base of how you look at the world. So you wake up in the morning and it's like, I'm going to remember these things and then I'll go do everything else that I do. So the first one, A, stands for acceptance. And the idea with acceptance is this. It's that we get really comfortable with whatever is. I find it, like I'm an observer of people. I'm an observer of myself, but also of other people. And I find it really interesting how much time and energy and worry and fear goes into trying to explain why something happened or trying to figure out who we're going to blame for a thing that happened. And the reality is like, it just doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it is what it is. And so I just think of how much time could be saved if rather than, oh, I can't believe so-and-so did this. Why would they do that? Blah, 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 blah. Now I've got to whatever. It's like, cool, but it happened. So once we're done with that entire dialogue, right, the little sidebar that we have going in our head, once we're done with that entire dialogue, guess what is still left? The thing that happened. I understand that as a human, it's second nature for us to to want to question, talk about, all the things that happen. That doesn't mean that it's successful or that it's effective or that it's efficient. Now, what I've found in my life is if I'm looking to create progress, if I'm looking to be a leader, my ability to acknowledge that something happened and then just accept that it is, it's kind of like rather than why did it happen? Who's to blame? Okay, we got to go figure out who it was and make them feel bad or, whatever. Rather than do all of that, doing all of that is like taking 3 right turns to avoid a left turn. What I found is like, oh, well, that happened, so I guess that's just what it is. Now, let's go do something about it. Now, I realize easier said than done, but it's a muscle to be worked on. And for me, the power comes in the recognition that even if I have all those things that I want to say, it doesn't change the fact that a thing happened, and I'm still left with that, and I've got to go decide what to do. So the very first thing that I try to do is I try to just, when I wake up in the morning, when a thing happens in my world, family, business, whatever, I just try to be like, okay, that happened. It is what it is. I accept it, and then I can move forward. And I want to spend the least amount of time doing the worrying, the complaining, the blame pointing, the finger pointing, or any of that stuff. So acceptance is mindset muscle number 1. Now, we move from there, and immediately after that is responsibility, intentionally spelled differently, where I now have the ability to choose how I'm going to respond. So the very first thing is like, cool, that happened, got it, I accept it. It is what it is. Doesn't mean I like it, but I accept it. The second piece is I always, in every situation, I have the ability to respond. And with that also means that I have the ability to then influence what the next outcome is. And what I've found is that when I am nervous or afraid or when I'm timid or any of those things, it's because I forget that I get to be a part of the equation that is the outcome to whatever the situation is, right? So if we go acceptance and responsibility, a thing happens, okay? We're going to go here. Let's just come back right here real quick. A thing happens. Step 1 for me is that I accept that it happened, and I don't spend any time doing this whole loop of complaining or whining or whatever. The second piece is now knowing that there's me, there's the thing that happened, and the combination of those two is going to equal an outcome. And I try not to forget that I'm in that equation. So yeah, there was a thing that happened, but there's also me here, and I get to respond, and how I respond is a factor in the equation that then leads to whatever the outcome is going to be. Okay? Hopefully my math in the air with my hands made sense. So whatever the situation is, I am a factor. It's like, think it as a math, right? The situation or thing that happened is a 1. If I want the outcome to be 0, then I show up as a -1. That's a crappy example because we show up negative. Let's do this again. Let's say the situation that happened is a -1. It's not in my favor, and I want to get to a 0. Then I've got to show up as a 1, right? If it's a -5 and I want to get to 0, I've got to show up as a 5. If it's a 2 and I want the outcome to be a 10, I got to show up as an 8. But the key, right? So the key with this, with the idea of responsibility, is that I remember that I am a factor in the equation always. And again, and when I've been less efficient, less of a leader, less confident, more insecure, is when I forget that I'm a piece in that equation. Like I get to provide a numeric value in this mathematical equation that leads to the outcome, whether it's in business, whether it's in my relationship with a significant other, whether it's with my family, whatever it is, I am a factor in that. So, okay, we got acceptance, we got responsibility. All right, let's go to the next one, which is capacity. So if I just accept what happened, and I remember that I'm a factor in the equation, then the last mental mindset that I found that's really, really valuable to help me stay confident is the fact that I don't have any limit on what I'm capable of. Now, I have no limit on what I'm capable of becoming. I might have a current limit today because I haven't developed it yet. However, over time, as long as I don't quit over time, I have no limit on my capacity. I can learn how to do anything. So if we take a situation, my business isn't producing the way that I want it to, I'm like, okay, it's not. That means I got something to learn here. I can be a factor in turning my business into what I want it to be. It's like, cool, the biggest thing right now is that we don't know how to sell and I'm not a very good sales rep. Great. I can learn how to be the sales rep that I need to be in order for this equation to balance out to what I want my business to look like. Same thing goes with, again, a relationship with a significant other. It's not where I want it to be. I get to be a factor in this equation. I'm not the person yet. Yeah, but you can become the person. So for me, and to try to make this a little bit more maybe tangible and real for me, this is something that I use as like a mental check mark, probably at least once a week, because I'm human. I don't know about you guys, but I'm human. And I have like little doubts about this or little doubts about that. And then literally it's like, okay, hold on. What's the actual situation that's going on? Okay, that is what it is. Cool. Let me make sure I'm not spending time complaining about it. Second, remember, I'm a piece of it. So whatever is being created, I'm a part of that. And then the third thing is I can become whichever piece I need to create the outcome that I want. So what do I need to become? And then I go do work. So it's literally like this analogy might help. So in football, you have a quarterback. He's the guy that gets the ball, drops back, and he's trying to throw it to one of his receivers. On most plays, when he drops back, he's got certain reads that he does like in order. He'll like check down receivers like, oh, that guy's, I'm looking for that guy. Not open, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. And it's a very methodical like check down read process where I go through my options. This is very much like that for me. If I ever start to feel any sort of like anxiety or fear or second guessing, I'm not like feeling like a force of nature. It literally is like, okay, well, am I not accepting something? Okay, check, got that. Number two, am I forgetting that I have a piece in this? Okay, number three, am I forgetting that I can become anything I need to? And usually by the time I've gone through those three things, it's like, okay, right, there's just a thing to go address, and I'm gonna go address it. Okay, so those are the three mindset muscles: acceptance, responsibility, capacity, that you wanna start to work on. And really, here's the thing, when I say work on, okay, what I actually mean is just accept that they're true. Like, that's it. You just have to remind yourself that they're true, and you'll start to unlock what's already inside of you, because these are, I have found, these are just fundamentally true. So you just accept it, remember that you got a piece in it, remember that you can become whatever you want, and then go to work, and that's it. It makes it really simple. All right, so mindset muscles so that you can be a confident leader who people want to follow. Now let's go to the next part. So as we're working on this, because we are human, I find it really, really valuable to remind myself what the phases of progress look like. Like, okay, so I am where I am today, and I want to get better. I recognize I have unlimited capacity. What is the process, not the process, sorry, what are the phases that I'm gonna go through so I don't get discouraged inadvertently early, or I wanna quit early, right? So, okay, so I got a story to tell. This is the Cohen story. So Cohen is my son. He is now a senior in high school as of the recording of this video. When he was, I don't know, maybe 11 or something, or 12. I could go look up the details. But when he was younger, we had about a year, maybe 9 months to a year, where me and my three boys would run a mile every day. And most of the time it was together. But if not, we just had this commitment. We were going to run a mile every day to prove that we could do, we'd do something every day. It was friggin' phenomenal. One of the times we were running, and I think he had been sick, so we hadn't been running in a while. We're running, and he gets about halfway through the mile. This might have actually been like the first time that we ran that we did this. I don't remember specifically. All I remember is he got about halfway through, and I could see because his face, like he wasn't trying to hide. I could see it was like, this is not good. We got like, he was hurting, right? And I said, just don't quit. Just run with me. And the kid ran the last half of the mile already in pain, and then he sprinted the last probably 100 yards of the mile. And then we get back to our house, and he falls onto the grass, and he's laying on the ground like sobbing because of the pain. I'm like, bro, so I'm standing there, and this will give you a little bit of an insight into the type of parent that I am, I guess. So I'm standing there, and he's crying, and I'm like, all right. I said, bro, like, what's wrong? Why are you crying? And not like, that made it sound like I was being a total prick. That's not exactly how it went down, but it's like, hey, why are you crying? Like, just a genuine question. He's like, it was hard. Like, I'm not very good at running. And then, then he started to do the things that our human brain does, which is, I'm not good at running and I'm not good at whatever. And I was like, oh, well, I'm like, so I introduced the phases of progress to him. And it was by pure inspiration combined with somebody else that said it. So Garrett White, he's the guy that started the Wake Up Warrior thing. He says something very, very similar to this. And I had watched a clip of a video where he said this before. We've had him in our office before, and I've heard him say this before. And it got brought back in some language that may not be exactly how he said it, but it was perfect for what Cohen needed. I said, okay, well, look, let's talk about what progress looks like. So I said, you got to understand there's 5 phases of progress. And this is what came out. I said, phase 1, okay, so 5 phases. I said, oh, hold on, I got to go back to the screen. You can't see this. All right. There are 5 phases of progress. So keep in mind, you got to like visualize this, right? He's laying on the ground, on the grass, in our front yard, in the middle of the afternoon, crying, and not like kind of sniffling, like emotional overwhelm. And I'm like, all right, look, there's 5 phases of progress, okay? Phase number 1 is you suck. And I said, now, phase number 2 is you work hard. And I said, what do you think phase number 3 is? And he said, through his tears, he said, you get good. I was like, oh, no, this is the problem. You think that just because you worked hard for a little bit, you get good. I'm like, no, you suck just a little bit less. Just a little bit less. And then if you get into phase 4 where you keep working hard enough and you stick in phase 4 long enough, then maybe you'll end up actually getting kind of good at something. And the most important piece when we look at this number 4, you keep working hard, and I got this from Alex Hermosi. He talks about the 30-second montage in like the Rocky movies, I think is the example he used. But you go into the movies, and anytime someone's got this struggle, there's like this montage where they go do all this work, and it's 30, 60, 90 seconds of how they do all this deep work, and they come out like, oh, I'm ready to go fight or battle. But like that 30, 60, 90 seconds represents potentially like years or decades of work. And so it's really, really important for us to recognize as we're continuing to work and improve and progress, that sometimes we're gonna have to spend a good amount of time pounding on like one nail, one specific thing to make it work. Okay, so we can't give up early just because it didn't work the first time or the second time or the third time. Like we've got to have some stick-to-itiveness, if you will. So I love this as the phases of progress. Again, if I start to get discouraged, sometimes like, well, am I expecting that this was just going to be easy, or am I expecting that I started to be at phase 5 when the reality is I just barely walked into phase 4, right? So that's a really good mental frame for me to remember. That the phases of progress, that these are the 5 phases of progress, and then I kind of take a temperature check of where I am. Okay, so we've talked about ARC, acceptance, responsibility, and capacity. Those are the mental mindset muscles that I want to develop. Phases of progress are, if we just go back, right? 1, you suck. 2, you work hard. 3, you suck a little bit less. 4, you keep working hard. 5, you might actually get good. And don't get impatient in the 4. Do the work to actually become good, right? Okay. My monitor decided it just wanted to black out real quick for a second, so it'll come back. We're gonna let it come back here anytime now. All right, while we're waiting for that, I don't know why it decided to just go black on me, but I'm not stopping the recording. We're gonna keep rolling with it. Okay, so next up, what we want to look at is the process of progress. Okay, and so when we look at the process of progress, there are 4 steps that I found is how I can accelerate through the phases of progress, okay? I'm gonna pause this real quick because my monitor's not coming back on. I'm gonna pause it and then I'll hop right back on in a second. Give me 2 seconds. And we're back. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna go to the process of progress. I'll drop myself back on the screen down here in the corner. Okay, so the process of progress for me is if indeed those mindset muscles are the core foundation, acceptance, responsibility, capacity, and if the phases of progress are I'm not gonna be very good when I start, and I got to spend a bunch of time doing work to get to where I'm better. What does the process look like? Like, is there a formula where if I just follow it, I can get to progress faster? And for me, what I found is that there is, and so much so that I ended up putting it on my hat. So you can probably see it in the little corner here, but also I put a picture here. So I made a hat. I wear hats all the time. I used to wear different people's hats, and I was like, yo, I should just make one that means something to me. So that's what I came up with. So I'm going to walk through dollar and give you some of the points about this is my daily formula, sometimes hourly formula to get to progress in any aspect in any area of my life. Okay, so here's what it stands for. If you haven't watched the other video, here's what it stands for. D stands for decide, A stands for act, L stands for learn, and then R stands for repeat. So the formula is decide, act, learn, repeat. And each one of these has like a little statement that goes with it to help really capture what the essence of this is. So when you decide, and let me back up. Remember, this is the process of progress, meaning this is the cycle through which progress happens. So this is what we want to be doing is if we make progress, it's because we did these steps right here. So decide. When you decide with ruthless practicality. And those words are chosen very, very intentionally. Ruthless practicality. So what I found, remember, we're talking about how to be a confident leader who people want to follow, how to unlock the shackles of our childhood so that we can unlock the inner leader. And I heard a quote that helps really illustrate the importance of deciding with ruthless practicality. And I don't remember where I heard it, so I wish I could give credit. But somebody said this, that anxiety lives in the space between alternatives. And I love that because what it really captures, and I have found that to be 100% true, when I'm feeling anxious, nervous, overwhelmed, it's usually because there's a decision that needs to be made. And I'm living in between the decision rather than looking at the alternatives and then deciding. So I came up with a mantra for this, which is when you decide ruthlessly and then execute humanly. Because what I found for me is oftentimes what would have me hold off making a decision was that I was worried about how it was going to impact other people. And then what I realized is, well, I can decide ruthlessly, but then I can execute humanly, and they don't really go together. It's so much more liberating to decide ruthlessly. Then you do have to go execute humanly, but it's so much easier, and you can make more powerful decisions when you decide ruthlessly and execute humanly, because the following, I believe, is true. One, deciding can be hard, especially when you're in any sort of a leadership position, whether it's a business, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a family. Deciding can be hard, but it still has to be done, okay? Some decisions that I make will disappoint other people. This is true, but if it's the right decision, it doesn't matter, okay? If it's the right decision, it doesn't matter. Disappointment will fade, but good decisions don't. So really quickly, very brief story. This is a house that I built with my wife. This was our dream house. It was pretty much, how should we say, freaking awesome. It was like 6,000 square feet. It was on 2/3 of an acre. If you look on the right side, let's see if I point here. If you look right up here, so the right side of the house as you're looking at it, there were no neighbors over there. It was an empty lot with a big old runway. So we had no neighbors over there. There were no neighbors behind us. We built this thing where, like, you walk in the front door and you can see that part in the middle that lifts up. Like, you walk in and it opens up to a room that's like 70 feet wide. It's like 30 from the front door to the back door is like 40 feet. All the hallways are 5 feet wide. It opens up and goes up 20 feet and then vaults to 24 feet. Like, you could literally play a basketball game in the front area. It was friggin' awesome. There was a casita, 5-car garage. Like, everything about this was an amazing house. It was our dream house. And it took, whatever, 2.5 years to build or whatever. And right about the time it was getting done being built, there were some other factors going on that had us start to second guess whether we should actually move into the house. And so we started to go back and forth on our options, which was, we had a house that we were in. We had already committed to this. We had put a bunch of money down because we did a bunch of customizations. So it's like we had money into it. We couldn't just walk away. We'd lose it. But if we moved in, we couldn't turn around and sell it right away. Do we sell the old house? Do we keep both houses? Like, we were going through all the different scenarios. And after some soul searching and some analysis and all that sort of stuff, it became really obvious to me that for our family, because our kid, like, as we started to move into this, was like, our kids are going to start leaving our house like in a year. This would be great, but in 4 years, 5 years, like, our kids are going to be out and we're going to be hanging out in this house for no reason. We were like 5Xing our mortgage. It was like, okay, do we really want to do this? And ultimately, what I came to the realization was like, this, as cool as this house is, this is not the best place. This is not the right decision for us right now. And I remember going and having a conversation with my wife, Bridget, and bless her soul. I said, hey, this is like, we need to sell this house. And she was disappointed, to say the least. Fair enough. She's allowed to be disappointed. We had just literally moved into the house. And this idea of sometimes you're going to disappoint people, but if it's the right decision, it's still the right decision. This click, because normally my pattern would be like, she turned, we were literally standing in this courtyard where we had this conversation. If you look at this picture, we're standing there, and she turned around, frustrated, ready to go. And the thought hit me. Normally I would just let her go and then I would feel bad and I would try to figure out some way to make it work, even though I knew it wasn't the right decision, right? And then this thought hit me, and I asked her, I said, hey, hold on. I understand that you're frustrated. I totally get it. And I'm not even going to tell you shouldn't be. Do you think this is the wrong decision? Because if you think it's the wrong decision, we should have a conversation around it. However, if you also believe that it's the right decision and you're disappointed, like, at least I can live with that. I can live with the fact that I created this disappointment as long as we're on the same page that we're making the right decision. And she acknowledged that we were making the right decision. It doesn't make it any easier, but it makes it easier to decide. It doesn't make it any easier to execute it, but it makes it easier to decide. And so we ended up living in the house for about 3 months, sold it, lost money on it, and anyway. And I will add that 100% it was the right decision. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It ended up being the right decision. Was it difficult? Yes. What allowed us to get through it was this light bulb moment that clicked. It was like, no, you decide ruthlessly. It was 100% if you take the human emotion out of it and you decide it was the right decision, and then you execute humanly. And so we did that. We executed as humanly as possible, but it was the right decision. So that's the D. First is decide, and when you decide with ruthless practicality. If you want the shortened tagline is decide ruthlessly, execute humanly. Okay, so that's the first step. Second step in the process of progress is act, and when you act with fearless imperfection. And there's a quote that I found a long time ago that I loved when it comes to action. It's by Dale Carnegie. It says, action breeds confidence and courage. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. If you want to conquer fear, don't sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy. I absolutely love that. I'm really clear that if I ever have fear and it's not because I haven't decided, usually it's because I haven't acted, then it's like, cool, what can I go do right now? Literally right now. I don't care how small it is. What thing can I do to put myself into action? Because action breeds confidence and courage. Another way of putting it, this is in my own words, but remind yourself there are two acceptable options. Number one, I'm going to do work and achieve the outcome that I hope for. Number two, I'm going to do work and I don't achieve the outcome that I hope for. And either way, they both start with doing work, and then they both end by starting over and doing work again. So the answer is always do work, take action. And I put in here fearless imperfection because the biggest reason I find that people don't act is because or they don't launch, but they don't act is because they're afraid that it's not good enough or whatever. It's like, man, forget that. Launch it and then make version 2 better. Just go. All right, now we're on to L for learn. So when you learn with scoreboard humility. So this one is my favorite. Scoreboard humility, the idea of scoreboard refers to in sports, I'm a basketball player, basketball coach, right? So in sports, you'll have teams that are playing sometimes. Sometimes you get a team that's like up by 30 points. And a player on the team that's losing, by 30 points, mind you, on the team that's losing, they'll make a nice play and then they'll start to talk trash. And what the winning team will always do is they'll just kind of, they look up at the scoreboard, they're like, scoreboard. And the reason why I love this one is because it's a reminder to pay attention to the score and let that influence or inform your behavior rather than changing the story about the score. So if somebody scores and they're down by 30 and they start to talk trash, they're trying to change the story from, yeah, that doesn't matter that I'm losing by 30. Look what I just did right here. And the reality is if you're going with scoreboard humility, it's like I scored. Okay, I got 28 more points to make up. I don't need to say anything at all. So the way this works in the different aspects of our lives are, if the business is not doing what you want or giving what you want, it means that you're doing something wrong. So go figure out what you need to change and go change it. If a relationship with a significant other is not the way that you want, it means that you're doing something wrong. If the relationship with your kids is not the way that you want, it means that you're doing something wrong. And the tendency is that we want to put blame outside. We want to put blame to the other side. That is never the answer. There's always a, well, what am I doing wrong that I can then go do to improve this? Again, scoreboard humility. Another quote that I love, this is by Eric Thomas, the hip-hop preacher, who says, the important thing is this, to be willing at any moment to sacrifice what you are for what you can become. At any moment to sacrifice the current version of you for the future version of you that is going to be greater and is going to be able to handle whatever thing you're focused on. So that's really important. Another way of saying it, for me, the way I like to frame it is anything that I want but I don't yet have, it lives just on the other side of this gap called who I'm not yet. So there's just a gap. Anything that I want that I don't have. If I had it, then I would already be the person that was good enough to get it. If I don't have it, it's because I'm not the person, I have not yet become the person who's good enough to have it. So the gap between what I have and what I want is simply what I am not yet. All right, so that's learn with scoreboard humility, and then repeat. And when you repeat as fast as you can. This process is like an hourly process. Just decide, act, learn, repeat. Decide, act, learn, repeat. Decide what you're going to do. Be ruthless about it, but practical. Act, just go launch it, take off, learn with scoreboard humility, and then when you repeat as fast as you can. And that's the process of progress. And with those 3 elements, I believe that's the core formula for how you can unlock the shackles of your childhood so that you can unlock your inner leader. And as a quick recap, number 1, we've got the 3 mindset muscles, which are, remember, acceptance. Don't make 3 right turns to avoid a left turn. Just accept that whatever is. Number 2, remember that you are a factor in the equation that leads to the outcome. So whatever happened, there's you, there's an outcome, the thing that happened plus you equals the outcome. So which version of you needs to step up to make sure that the outcome is what you want it to be, regardless of what the situation was or the thing that happened. And then the third piece of that is capacity. You are unlimited capacity. You may not currently be unlimited capacity, but you have the capacity to become whatever you need to be to create whatever outcome you want. Okay, so those are the 3 mindset muscles. In the phases of progress, as we go on this journey, phases of progress, there's 5 of them, right? You start by, you suck, and then you work hard, and then you suck just a little bit less, and then you keep working hard through the entire montage, which could be years, probably not 30 seconds, and then at some point you'll actually get pretty good at something. So be patient in that process. There's like a healthy patience, right? Be patient by not giving up, but be sort of dissatisfied, and that's what keeps you driving hard and hard and hard. And then the last thing is the process of progress, which is dollar. So D, decide. And when you decide with ruthless practicality. Decide ruthlessly, execute humanly. When you act with fearless imperfection. launch it, you can fix it in version 2. Learn. When you learn with scoreboard humility. Look at the scoreboard of the different areas of your life and let it tell you what you need to change rather than you making up a story that absolves you of the responsibility. And then when you repeat as fast as you can. That process, dollar, will get you through the phases of progress faster. Guaranteed, if you see somebody who's making very, very rapid progress, it's because they are going through the dollar process faster than you or than me or than somebody else. And then in all of that, make sure that you constantly remember, again, number one, whatever is. Just accept it. It's a lot faster. Number two, you have the ability to be a factor in the equation. And number three, you can become whatever it is that you need to create whatever it is that you want. All right, so there's the last piece, how to unlock the shackles of your childhood so that you can unlock your inner leader in the overall framework of how to be a confident leader who people want to follow. Hopefully that was helpful. Would love to get your, if there were any light bulb moments that you had or like the thing that you liked the most. Would love to hear about that in the comments. And I think that's all that I got. Thank you for putting up with my screen snafu. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video. All right, peace.